Everybody can see me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Not on yet. They're coming.
Okay.
Takes a
Should I
minute for them
wait?
to get on. Yep, takes
Okay.
a minute for them to get on.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're on IG. We're on Facebook. We're on Facebook now. Let me see here. Edit audience, public. All right. Hold on. And we're on YouTube. And let me get the chat open. All right. We got one person. All right. Here comes people in the chat now. Good evening, everybody. Blessings, blessings. Can you see the chat? You see the chat, sis? Yeah. You see the chat?
I can't. No.
You should be able to.
I can only see the slide.
Oh, you can only see the slide. You can't see
Yeah.
me and you right now?
No.
What?
No.
Okay, well, exit out of your slide, then we'll just come back to it if you can't see
Okay.
you and me right now.
Okay.
You know how to get back there.
Yeah. I think it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, can you see me and you? Because you just exit
Yeah.
out.
Now I can see it. Yeah.
All right, here we go. We're good. You should be able to see the chat also.
Okay. All right. You ready to start, or you want to wait a few
Oh,
minutes?
wait for more people to get in because they're coming in from YouTube, Facebook, and IG.
Okay.
I found out how to do it with IG as well.
Okay. I think I got to figure out how to open up my slide again, but let me see if I could do that.
Well, you just got to go back to where you did in the bottom, and it'll bring it back up. Don't worry about it yet. We can do some
Okay.
introduction stuff first, okay?
Well, I'm just saying I want to open it so
Uh,
that I can grab it easier.
it might take you off though.
Okay. No,
So
I'm
let's
doing
open
it
it up.
now. Okay.
Oh, okay. After we do the introductions. Hello, everybody in the chat.
Oh God, why is it doing
It'll be all right. It's gonna work
that?
out.
Okay. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna work out. Everybody in the chat, all praises to the Most High. I got my little sister here, Devitta Briscoe. She works for the Seattle Mayor's office, and she was talking to me about this last week and breaking down and explaining this thing that's been going around everywhere, Project 2025, and really don't nobody really know what it's really about because nobody has really. Some people have tried to break it down, but she's done some extensive research and she thinks that it's something important for the community to know. So here we are, coming before you to give you some information that could be helpful for you. So anyway, this is my sister, Devitta Briscoe, and I'll let her take it a little bit from here.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I really, this was just something I wanted to address just because as I was just kind of like scrolling social media and kind of hearing after the debate is when this really kind of hit me. When I heard, it seemed like the Democrats and the Republicans, you got Trump, and then you had Biden, and they're going at each other. It was really disappointing after the debate. I heard a lot of people saying how how immature they were acting, kind of taking shots at each other. I almost want to call them, the Democrats and the Republicans,
The
because uh,
Democrats.
yeah, the Democrats, because they had like real live beef against each other. And so this was just something that I had been doing a lot of my own research and trying to figure out, what is the hysteria around this, and why are people so uh, because almost like I hear people like scared because what I heard Biden say was, look up Project 2025, and then wasn't too long after that it went mainstream, and then Taraji P. Henson was on the BET Awards, and she said the same thing. And so I'm the type of person that I kind of I kind of dig a little further because I just know how manipulative the media is, right wing media and left wing media. So let me kind of just give a little bit disclosure. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm independent. I don't really ascribe to any political agenda. And I'll kind of explain it this way. I'm a little more conservative when it comes to policies with a moral fiber. That's just because of my personal beliefs, following principles of the Bible. But then I'm also very liberal when it comes to policies around race and justice, race and poverty and injustices. So I kind of take a little bit of this side and a little bit of that side. But normally, I have not really participated in presidential elections. I normally vote locally, and really that's because I don't. In the past, since I've been alive, I haven't really seen things change for the people on the bottom, whether a Democrat is in office or a Republican. So, I look out for the underdogs, and because that's not that I haven't had a lot of privilege in my life. I'm a homeowner. I've went to college. I've got myself off of welfare. I was a convicted felon, and I got a pardon from the governor. So I kind of worked my way up, and so, but I still don't forget where I've come from, and I don't forget the people who are on the bottom of society. And if you can't show me what you're doing for the people on the bottom, I don't really care about your politics. So, so anyway, I want to try to see if I can bring so that was my introduction, and then I also want to say that I put out. I kind of had some thoughts around this. My first thought uh, was Ice Cube had come up with a contract with Black America. This is back when Trump was running for office and Biden, and he had like 13 pillars of voting this election. Please explain Trump's plan on making. Okay, I'm gonna get there. Okay, so my the first thing I thought to myself was, why doesn't anybody know about Ice Cube's contract with Black America? And this was a 13 pillar contract, and a lot of people weren't really paying attention. So what he said was, I'm going to see if the Biden administration wants to meet about this contract, and then I'm going to see if Trump wants to meet about this contract. So Biden told him, we'll meet after the election, which never happened. And so I found that pretty disturbing, to be honest, because it was kind of like this attitude, like, I don't need to meet with you. I already know y'all gonna vote for me. So, whatever demands you making don't matter. So now Trump's team, now Ice Cube didn't directly meet with any official, but I do believe they reached out to Ice Cube to get a copy of his contract with Black America, and they adjusted their promise to Black America, what they called the Platinum Plan, which was $500 billion that they were promising the Trump's administration, the Platinum Plan, which was $500 billion that was promised to Black America. And so they adjusted that Platinum Plan according to Ice Cube's contract with Black America. So I don't know if anybody knows about the contract with Black America. I don't know if, and there's not just Ice Cube's contract with Black America. There's Dr. Claude Anderson, who is a very prominent, I kind of consider him an elder. He's a very, I can't say not a professional, but an intellectual on economics. And so he also wrote an economic plan for Black America. And so my thing is, why do we just throw out our vote for and pledge our loyalty to any political? Why do we just automatically say we're going to vote for Democrats, or I'm a Republican, so I'm going to vote for the Republicans? And so you had Roland Martin, you had a few people that were trying to drag Ice Cube for meeting with the Trump administration. And so he was like, look, said he teamed up with scholars who did this research beforehand. Okay, yeah, that's true. So what Ice Cube did was he got some people, prominent people from the Black community, to help him draft this contract with Black America. And so from what I know, he wanted to really focus on racial and economic justice for Black people. And so what I thought in my mind is that's what we should have been doing for every election. Even when Obama got in office, it didn't matter to me. We should have been doing that. We should continue to keep doing that. Have our own concessions about what it is that we want, instead of automatically saying we're going to go and vote the same way that we've always voted. And so, it's hard for me with this, because I know the history of the Democratic Party. And I know a lot of people do. And so I have a really hard time with, and we kind of got this thing in our heads, and this is what happens, right? What's happening right now is we're so polarized in our country right now. We got one extreme right-wing conservative agenda, which is Project 2025, that swings all the way to the left, which is an extreme left an agenda. And so I'm going to kind of go through that in a minute. But we are so polarized right now that it's one pendulum swing to the other side. And so what's happened is people who are independent and center, a lot of people are getting pulled over to the Trump side because of the policies, because of the economic policy. So you have right now a lot of Black men are in disagreement with Black women on who they're actually voting for. So in the polls, they're saying that it's increasing for Black men on the conservative side, and the Black women are actually on the right side, on the left side. Sorry. And so that's because of the economic policies. So anyway, we are in this extreme polarized climate right now that's not serving anybody. And so I think that's where a lot of the misinformation is coming from. And so everything that is on social media, everything that I have seen on the news, I don't care if it's Fox News, CNN, there is just so much lies. I mean, like flat out lying. And so it's hard to get to the truth. And people are just kind of regurgitating the same things that they hear over and over and over again. They don't really do a lot of research. And for us, we have demonized the Republican Party so much that normally we don't even take the time to see what the other side is offering, and so, or we don't have our own plan to say this is what we want. And so I heard Dr. Umar Johnson saying this, and he was saying, you know, he said, how do you get black people to vote? And he said what we do is, he said, every other race, every other ethnicity, the Jews, the East Indians, they have their concessions before the election, and they know what they're going to get before the election. And he said, but what happens with black people is, you know, we don't have a plan that we come up with before the election. We automatically pledge who we want to vote for. And he said how we vote is out of fear. And so he said that's how they have gotten us to vote over the years. He said, now Biden may not offer you anything, but Trump will be worse. And so then we all jump on board and we're anti-Trump. So we automatically vote, for Biden or Democrat. And so that was a thing that was mind-boggling to me. And then also, I wanted to say, Project 2025 came from the Heritage Foundation. It's a think tank. And I'll have, Dre, if you can kind of add what you said when we went to LA about think tanks. And so what I know is they did get like 100 organizations. They got like there was a portion of people from the previous Trump administration that did get in, that were helping to come up with these policies. But to me, it is a wish list. The Heritage Foundation has been around since 1973. This is nothing new. Both sides have think tanks. Both sides have lobbyists. Both sides do this. But the Heritage Foundation, I think there's some background of, who the director was, and he was not very. This was. They're saying, and again, this is a conservative agenda, and so they got a lot of different people in the room. It was like, and they started this in 2022, and so they started on this Project 2025 way before anybody even said they were running for office. So the idea that this is Trump's plan is how they have manipulated this in the media. Now, I believe that there are some things that are aligned with Trump's. Now, Trump's agenda is Agenda 47, and he's very clear at every rally. He don't sugarcoat what he's going to do. He says it at every rally. You can pretty much just go online and pull it up. So it's not something that's secretive. They've been doing this, again, like I said, since 1973. The first administration that they did this for was for Reagan. And again, it's a wish list. It's a set of policies. They get people in the room, and the difference is what they've done with previous administration to this administration is they pulled every conservative organization. I mean, they was trying to pull the guns out. They're like, look, the left, the extreme left is causing too many problems in society. So we gotta take our country back. That's their thing. And I'll get to that too. But
Okay, let me say, keep that thought, sis.
okay.
Let me just say to the people that are on right now why this is something different. Okay, I need to give you kind of a backstory a little bit, and I'm gonna let her continue. You see how she's breaking those things down to you, right? She was the co-director of Not This Time, so we were, as my sister, that's our brother that was killed. And so you see how she's going through those things. See, this is what we had to teach the community with police accountability. We had to teach them how systems work because we're so out of the loop. So we had to have community meetings. We had to get the information, communicate it to our community in a way that one can understand it, what's beneficial, what's not, why this is like that. See, we did this for a long time. Community engagement. That's what she's doing right now, right? She's got the information. She's coming to bring that back to you. The exact same thing we did with police accountability. There's a lot of people out there talking. The difference between my sister, talking about something is she has receipts of having done this before, having put some things together and having done political things and having success before, right? So it's important that you bring your whole mind because we're trying to give you the information first, right? In a way that you can get it, understand it, and can move according with it. I just need to let you know that it's just not about nobody just talking. We've done this before, right? When a whole bunch of people's out there talking, I heard she mentioned, I love Dr. Umar. We brought him to conversations with the streets, right? But when you talk about receipts dealing with this system, dealing with how this system works politically, we're darn near the only one as black people that have beat them people. So we know what we're talking about, okay? So stay tuned in to what she's saying and how she's trying to break that thing down and explain to you so that you can have some information. Go ahead, sis.
Can you also kind of share a little bit about what you said about think tanks? Uh,
Well, think tanks is, you know, I like having think tanks, right? And they bring the greatest minds from around the world. This has been going on forever in this country and Europe and they're bringing the greatest minds and map out a plan of what's going to happen for the next 100 years, right? And they've been doing that forever, right? So that's the simple way of understanding that, right? So that's what we try to do, right? We try to have our own think tank, right? Of how we're going to maneuver with this system. But that's what they do, and that's what they always do. That's what you should expect those people to do is bring the greatest thinkers, the greatest minds together and map out exactly how things are going to be for the next 50 to 100 years, right? You remember that Willie Lynch letter based upon think tanks, right? And if we do this, 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 and this, these people will be in this situation for 400 years or what have you, right? So that's it. Go ahead, sis.
okay. So uh, to me, I'm not too much shook about Project 2025. And can you see me? I think I'm going. Am I getting a little bit? Oh, okay. I didn't see myself. I'm not shook. And the reason why, because I remember Dre saying this too, that what people need to understand is that as a people, we've been through far worse, and we're resilient and we've survived. And so uh, I know people want to kind of and to me, this is how the Democrats work, right? They do use fear mongering and scare tactics, and they do that to get us to vote the way they want us to vote. So if you notice, right after the debate, the first thing that came out of Biden's mouth was, look up Project 2025. And that's because of his performance in that debate, right? And so this was just another way for him to shift the attention over to, oh my God, we got to be afraid. And so that's what that part of it. And then I'm hearing people like, texting each other and, all over and over and over and over and over to be afraid, of this Project 2025. And what I've been saying is they've been doing this for a long time. This is not nothing new.
Sure.
Every administration, they do the same thing. And what's crazy to me is they've been knowing about this for a whole 2 years now. So if they really wanted to address the right wing and what they're going to do to Black America, they've had all this time to do that. They didn't do it until it was going to be something that was going to work in their favor. And so when you think about DeSantis down in Florida, he's pushing against this woke agenda. He's saying no children at the Pride festivals. He's cutting out the critical race theories from the schools. He's doing all this stuff. So they're just going to let him be the bad guy, when they could push some opposition and they're not doing it. They only do it when it works for them. And so, to me, it's just a political game that they play between the both of them. And I am not afraid of anything, and again, what I'm saying is, why aren't we talking to Dr. Claude Anderson? Why aren't we talking to Ice Cube? And what Roland Martin did was had Ice Cube come on his show and was basically like trying to punk him about, well, what did you go meet with the Trump administration for? And he's basically like, look, I came up with a contract and I did it. He was like, well, where were you before? He said, look, man, look, I'm an artist. This ain't my field. I'm an artist, and what I've been doing is being an artist. He said, but I didn't see anybody stepping up to the plate, so I did it myself. He's like, look, don't drag me through the mud. I took the opportunity with whoever opened up the door. And what Ice Cube was saying is it doesn't make any sense not to meet with the Trump administration when there's a possibility that he might win. He's saying, I'm going to give these concessions to him to see what he going to do with it. I'm not going to just avoid to go talk to him just because, he's Trump. He was like, I don't care. So anyway, the Trump administration did take their platinum plan, which again was $500 billion that was going to improve economic growth for Black people. It was home ownership. I don't know if anybody's looked it up, but I didn't know anything about it until I looked up and researched Ice Cube's contract with Black America. And so that's telling me like how the propaganda, how we have been blinded by what is being offered, and it don't matter what it is. The Bush administration. So Clinton, I don't know if you guys remember when Clinton said there's going to be a cap on AFDC, which was welfare. It used to be generational. You can stay on welfare for as long as you want to. Well, they changed that and said, no, we're going to give welfare back to the states, and each state can decide how long you could be on welfare. Some states said 2 years. Some states said, Washington gave us 5 years, which was the longest. And during that time, after that, there was work requirements. Now, with all that money that the government was saving, they said, let's give that money to the church, to the Black churches, what they called the faith-based initiative. And the NAACP got involved and was like, there's a separation between church and state. I know Washington no churches in Washington applied for the money. And that money was to give it back to the Black churches so that they can meet the needs of the people in their community, because the people are already going to church for spiritual help. And they know how Black people are with the church. So that's where they was offering the money and saying, look, you guys can have this money that we're saving and use that money for housing, use that money for economic development, use the money for job creation, use the money for school development, use it for whatever you want to. But we're giving you the power to meet the needs of the people in your community. And most churches, Black churches, didn't apply for it. and that's because it was coming from the Republican Party, and it was Bush. So anyway, I just kind of throw that out there that I'm not afraid. This is not some boogeyman. Trump is very clear about what he's going to do. He says it at every rally. So there are his policies. Again, is Agenda 47 that's on his website, and there is alignment in the Project 2025 and the Agenda 47. There is some overlap in certain areas, but the idea is he did not like sit down with these people because politicians like him, I work for a politician, so they kind of don't get into the weeds and the details. They have other people to do that stuff for them. And advisors that they trust to do that. Now, people said that there was like 140 something people from the Trump administration that worked on Project 2025. When I went through the list and looked at everybody's bio, I got less than 12. I don't know where they coming up with 38 or 30, they first it went from 31, then it went from 140. I mean, I don't know. And again, I'm not defending it, but there is some like again, radical stuff that and it's not no secret. This is stuff they've been wanting to do for a while, and they implement this same stuff. They just changed the title. And so it's up to that administration, whoever gets in office, if they want to implement those policies or not. And so like Reagan was offered the same thing. He implemented a little over half of what the Heritage Foundation offered. He didn't take every single policy and implement it. So this idea that Trump came up with this whole document is his plan, is actually is a little bit fabricated. He did not sit down and write this whole thing and give it to the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation took it upon themselves to bring people into this think tank, conservative think tank. And again, what it is a plan that they give to the next conservative president. Again, a wish list. If they want to implement some of this stuff or not, they could take some of it, they could take none of it, or they could, they could just dismiss the whole thing in general. 9 times out of 10, they don't. Now, some of Trump's administrators that was in the previous administration did help with coming up with the policies for Project 2025.
Let me ask a question, sis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Heritage Foundation, are they funders as well? Do they fund the Republican Party with big money as well? Because I would imagine there have to be some type of funding influence to encourage them to adapt to some of the things that they've put down. I would think so. Is that something we have to figure out or find out?
This is like one of the biggest think tanks. And again, the conservatives, they got like all these policy experts, and most of these people that worked on this were people who worked for previous administrations, all the way from like Reagan, Bush. They brought in, when I say they brought in the good big guns for this, they brought everybody in. And to me, I don't understand why the Democrat Party didn't do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of like, well, where's Biden's project? Instead of telling everybody to shift over here and be scared of this, where's your plan? But to answer your question, yes, they are a huge think tank. They've been around for a long time. They got big money. The director who started this, he's from the Coors. Remember the Coors, the beer? He's got some inheritance or from that legacy from the Coors beer company. And so, again, these ain't no poor folks. They got on the ball. And the reason why is because they seen that Trump kind of had when he first started, because remember, he's not a polished politician. He's a right. And so I think that's why I've been kind of watching, and there have been a lot of Black people that have started to really rally around him, and because he has this unapologetic kind of style, and I think some people like that. And again, like people who don't like him don't like him. But one of the things that I've seen happen is because we're in this polarized climate, people are doing things like, if you vote for Trump, I ain't speaking to you no more, or, we just gonna lose relationship. Like I've seen this stuff, like people are that serious about this election.
Let me say, sis, I put a comment up here because I know this is a position and has been for a very, very long time for a lot of Black people. And I just think it's something that we could speak to. The person says, Devin Jennings, I'm voting for Christ. And I have a lot to say about why I think that's problematic. But what do you think about that?
I've heard a lot of people say that. And I'll tell you what Malcolm X said. Malcolm X, and if you guys have heard, this is a speech, and it's called Ballots or Bullets. It's by Malcolm X. And in the beginning of that, he says, I am a Muslim. And the Quran, he said, the Elijah Muhammad, he has opened up my eyes. And he says, I am a Muslim by practice. And then he goes on to talk about Martin Luther King is a Christian minister. He said, and then Malcolm was saying, I'm a Muslim minister. And he said, but the Islam governs my private life. He said, Islam does not govern my political life. And so he said, Black nationalism governs his political life. And so he separated the two of saying, now, if I bring Islam into my conversations with Martin Luther King, who's a Christian minister, he said, then we're going to battle back and forth, about what is the policy agenda. And so that's how I would answer that question. And again, it doesn't mean that you can't support policies that align with your faith. And if it is something that violates your faith, then I wouldn't just support that. And so a lot of people are have a very strong, a very legalistic, dogmatic mindset around abortion. There's some people want to blow up abortion clinics, which don't make no sense. If you're pro-life, why you want to go kill an abortion doctor? There's a hypocrisy in that, right? And then you have people who are saying they're pro-life for the baby in the womb. Okay, but what happens when the baby gets born? After the baby's born, don't the living person deserve the same amount of support and health care and everything else? But you throw them by the wayside after they living. So a lot of things sometimes is hypocritical, and so that's how I would answer the question. That's what I heard Malcolm X, and that it really stuck with me when I heard him say that.
Let me say, when we were doing police accountability, we ran into a lot of this. We ran into a white vote because it doesn't help, and we were able to, say and agree with a lot of our people that I know that it hasn't helped, right? And many of times those things haven't helped because we weren't at the helm of the information. We weren't at the top. But now we are at the top, right? And this is what we're trying to offer you. If you take the position, I'm voting for Christ, he's not running, first of all, right? You're trying to mix a spiritual world, right, with a natural world. Have you ever heard of that adage, heavenly minded that you're no earthly good, right? Um, uh, God himself is not about to come down here and do nothing for you. He gonna give you the mind. He gonna give you the wherewithal to go handle it yourself. I've always had an aversion to people saying, well, the Lord take care of it. Right? I would say, well, he didn't take care of it during slavery. He hasn't taken care of all our brothers being killed. Right? He sent us in the world to go fight this system with black genius so that we can get some type of justice for our brother, and not just our brother, but others that have been victimized by police accountability. We had to go put that work in. I just think it's a cop out when some church people talking about, well, the Lord will take care of it. No, he's not. He gave you the ability to take care of it. Everybody is operating in every race is operating in their genius. And here black people always talking about, well, the Lord will take care of it. That's why they're in the global platform handling their business. And black folks is always waiting for somebody to come when that person that you waiting to come has given you the genius and the ability to go make it happen in the global platform. Right? So I understand your sentiment. I'm voting for Christ. Right? But that song, money ain't going to pay my doctor bill. That's the sentiment I have for that.
Okay, I see some things in the chat. There's a few things I want to address real quick because I know people are putting some things out there. One, somebody said something about abortion, and that again, that is an extreme policy on the right side, conservatives. They Now, what they want to do is they want to stop this abortion pill. They don't want federal funding for that pill. And the reason for that, I don't know what the reason is, but here's one thing that I have a idea around is you can now have an abortion at home. So you take this pill and then you just go sit on the toilet and the baby comes out, I guess. To me, that's a health risk. So the federal government funding that, I'm kind of, again, this is part of this is going into the presentation that I have. Um, uh, so what they want to do is stop the federal funding. Now, let me kind of go back to this. You have all these white liberals who talk about anti-racism, and to me, it's a bunch of virtue signaling. And if you don't know what that term means, it's I have some moral superiority because I just took a class on anti-racism, and I'm going to use my white privilege, to advance economic outcomes on behalf of Black and brown people. And you hear this Black and brown thing. Okay, so abortion, and again, you have some very extreme Christians and people who are believers who are adamant that abortion should not exist. And so under Trump is when Roe v. versus Wade, that was a 50-year policy. So a lot of states stopped, issued a mandate to not do abortion, which caused a lot of people to have to go to other states to have an abortion. So and some of these states have kind of like sanctuaries where you can go there and get the abortion. And so all in the name of women's rights or women's reproductive health. And I want to kind of get to the bottom of this. Abortion is one of the most racist policies in America. And you don't never hear one white liberal talking about how they're going to address abortion. And let me tell you why. Planned Parenthood was developed by Margaret Sanger, who was a devout racist. This woman called it the birth control movement. And what she really did is she first just wanted to call it, women getting out of the house. It's kind of this whole feminist movement, women just wanting to have, sexual freedom. And, a lot of these moral women was like, nah, man, we ain't with that. We don't want people thinking we loose like that. So she said, okay. So she moved or replaced her birth control agenda to eugenics. And eugenics was a scientific way. I don't know if people are familiar with Darwinism and the survival of the fittest. What that says is that the people who are superior will outpace everybody else who don't get left behind. So there's a race of people that are superior physically, mentally, psychologically than the rest of the population. So what she did was she convinced Congress that Black people were a degenerate race. And this was a form of population control to slow down the gene pool of Black people. So if you notice, most Planned Parenthood clinics are in Black neighborhoods. Most abortions are performed on Black women and Hispanic and Latino women as well. And so I'm not understanding, if you so pro-Black, why this ain't part of your policy agenda, because nobody's talking about it. You got Obama standing up there with Planned Parenthood. You got every single political candidate talking about, abortion. And so again, I'm not saying that women shouldn't have a right to choose. I'm saying you calling it women's reproductive rights, but it is a very racist policy and agenda, and it always has been. And so now I think from what I've read, Trump has a different position on abortion than Project 2025. So for him, he believes there should be abortion, but very restricted. So like if a woman's health is going to be impacted, if she's going to die delivering this child, if there's like an incest or a young child, something like that. So he believes that there should be restrictions around it. And so I think he kind of, and he differs on some policies that than what Project 2025 calls for. And so him trying to distance himself from it is because of that reason, is because there's some stuff in there he don't agree with, and they differ from him. And so so yeah, I'm going to try to get there, to where Trump is and where Kamala Harris is. The other thing I'm having a real big problem with is the attack from the other side on Kamala Harris as well, right? And saying she's not intelligent, she's a DEI, and she's not really black, which she says she's Indian. Her mother is Asian. Is that East Asian? Yeah, East Asian. And her father is Jamaican. And so what I heard Dr. Umar also say is to ascribe to the well, he's Pan African, but to ascribe to it, you not only got to be black, but you have to psychologically accept your blackness. And to a lot of people, she hasn't come out and really claimed it. And so he's saying, psychologically, sometimes she's Indian, sometimes she's, whatever. And so anyway, so this is just the attack on her has been a little disheartening to me. And so one of her policies positions is, or matter of fact, that she's done this administration. People saying, what has she done? What has she done? Well, I'll tell you what she's done. The Biden administration, and actually Kamala is over the Washington in DC. There's a Department of Gun Violence Prevention. This has never been done. We have never had anything in the White House that has addressed urban gun violence. And right, so she's very dizzy. So this department is in her wheelhouse. And what we call this body of work is community violence intervention. And that's where it's a shift away from public safety, where we're investing in policing with thinking that we're going to arrest our way out of urban gun violence. And so it's a move away from investing in credible messengers. And these are people who have come out of the streets, are reformed, gang members, drug dealers, hustlers. They know the neighborhood. They have the relationships in the neighborhood. And so it's kind of like a complement to law enforcement. Not that they work directly with law enforcement. Law enforcement does give the credible messengers information, but they don't give law enforcement no information. And so it kind of works that way for them to mediate conflict in the community, because we know that a lot of these deaths are because of petty arguments, insults. You stepped on my shoe, you was messing with my girl, you didn't pay me, you didn't give me my respect, or whatever. And so they mediate conflicts to stop a shooting from happening. And so there's a lot of best practices right now that's around this body of work, to interrupt the cycles of gun violence in the hood. And so no administration has ever put this much money and investment of best practices into play. So they took 16 cities, they did like a cohort. They're coming up with an academy. I heard her speak at the first launching to professionalize this industry and to make this a part of the framework of public safety. Because right now, credible messengers aren't really respected and by the police because the police think they don't need no credible messenger. So there's tension between the community and policing. But it's in this reimagining public safety, what we're saying is that community violence intervention needs to be part of that public safety infrastructure. It needs to be built into that. So she's over that department. She's also been a part of the George Floyd Policing Act, that the bill that went forward for the George Floyd Policing Act. Democrats introduced that Republicans voted against it. Then there was another Republican, a black Republican, that he kind of offered some other solutions, and then they had concessions with Republicans and Democrats. They couldn't come up with an agreement, so the George Floyd Act didn't get passed, and that was kind of sad because but she did try to introduce it. So I give her props for that. I give her props for the gun violence work. Um, and again, like I said, they don't really have a Project 2025, which they should have had one.
Mhm.
But there's some things about like what they call this greenwashing. It's like about the environment and investing money in these climate change, which is kind of a whole nother agenda. So they're taking people's pensions. All of these people who have our fire, our police, anybody who works in government, they're taking their pension investments and they're investing those pensions into this climate change agenda that conservatives are fighting against. And it, because it's a battle between what they call sustainability, which kind of goes with that woke agenda. And so let me get into that for just a
Yeah,
minute.
hold on. Before you get there, let me go back a little further. I think you quoted Umar Johnson, Dr. Umar Johnson, in saying that she hasn't. I don't know how you say he put it. She had you got black, and she got to think black. How did you say he
He
said that?
said she has to you're black by not just your skin color, but you're black by your psychological acknowledgement of being black.
Okay,
so
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 so that's
so
so.
so I could be black, but psychologically I think
I, I I don't
I don't claim being black. That's what
know.
he was.
Yeah, I don't know if she ain't never said that before, but I'm not gonna go that far. I think that's
Right,
too broad a spectrum. You can't pigeonhole somebody and you then who's the one who's the one who's the judge of that? Who decides that? Who decides? That's just like playing your ass ain't black enough. Whose ass is
right,
blacker? It's just like playing those games. I think that is problematic to put that out there like that. He's sharp. He knows better than that. But yeah, I got a problem with that thought process to put that out there. Like, some you're pigeonholed in, you ain't black because you don't think like this. If you don't get boy, anyway. So then
so
again,
yeah, yeah, Dr. Marshall, Umar, well, he got a new name. He kind of he says a lot of things that are a little bit, that I don't
I know. I mean,
wholeheartedly agree
so
with.
let me talk to people in the chat, right? One of the fundamental things that I preach during police accountability all the time is that, especially to our people, that I don't believe that I have to agree with somebody 100% of the time in order to build with them, right? And that allows me a lot of room to build with a lot of people. Understand that. Because sometimes we as a people, we'll quit you. We'll ride with you. You could say one, two things that we disagree with, and we'll quit you, right? And so I come back and I say, well, you see how silly this is? Politically, it's silly because do you agree with your mama 100% of the time? Do you agree with your brother? Do you agree with your sister 100% of the time? No, you don't. So why is it that you expect a stranger or a politician that you're going to agree with them 100% of the time? No. What I said, we have to build where we can build at, right? So when I hear a lot of people being against Kamala, it's because something they disagree with. Well, when I was building with the mayor, they were like, "Well, we don't like her, this, that, and the other." And I said, what Mary did you like? Which one? Tell me which one of these mayors you did like, right? Just go back. 4 years ago, did you like that mayor? Okay, how about 4 years before that? Did you like that mayor? Right? What mayor did you waiting on somebody to like? Right? That's where you at. You ain't gonna never get nothing done. You ain't gonna never be a part of nothing. Black folks, stop being so emotional, right? Build where you can build. Build where you can build. You ain't got to agree with you ain't gonna agree with nobody. Why are you getting such a high expectation? Who in the world do you agree with 100? You don't agree with yourself 100% of the time. You don't knock it off. I just want to throw that out there, sis.
All right, I'm gonna let me bring up this. Oh, there was one other thing somebody said is about qualified immunity, and people think that that means protecting from prosecution. That's not actually what the federal qualified immunity means. It actually is talking about police officers being sued, being held liable. And me working for uh, working in this political space right now, because after the George Floyd, we lost a lot of officers. And that's because so many people were antagonistic. There was the defund movement. Officers stopped what they call proactive policing. And so murders just shot up. It not only did that after the George Floyd protest, but it also did it after Michael Brown protests. So the tension between the police, between law enforcement and the community caused and what people are trying to say it was because of the pandemic. It wasn't actually because of the tension between law enforcement. But I kind of I disagree with that, because murder didn't increase in any other country after the COVID, and murders only increased in America. And so and it increased like in different cities, like almost 30%. I mean, it literally took like a year and a half to go back down, like 2 years to go, the murders to go back down. And there's a reason for that. And again, police didn't, they kind of stopped with this like proactive policing, which is where they're investigating stuff before it happens. And so in a lot of units that were inside of these police departments, like for instance, they have a commercial sex trafficking unit. A lot of these units were being threatened to dissolve. And so we had to really question, yes, we want to decrease the funding. We want to shift some of that money over to community because they got astronomical budgets. um, and we want to shift some of that money over to community, and they don't need to be responding to every single call. Some stuff they don't need to show up for with a badge and a gun. And so anyway, just having alternative police response, having other responses for things like mental health. The police don't need to show up for that. And the reason why is because, they're aggressive and they're hostile, in approaching people. So anyway, that was another thing I wanted to kind of clear up, is that people automatically think qualified immunity means something that it doesn't. So I wanted to clear that up. So when the sisters on the panel asked Trump about the recent death of Sonia Massey, he really didn't know how to answer the question, because he's thinking they know what qualified immunity means, and they weren't speaking the same language, because what he said was, well, didn't the officer get arrested? And she was like, well, why do you think that, officers shouldn't be prosecuted or whatnot? And he was like, well, in some circumstances, the police, they're making split second decisions. And so anyway, qualified immunity doesn't affect the criminal prosecutions in the state. And so what he's talking about is being sued. And the reason that is important, especially to mayors who are running cities, or our county executives, is because it's hard to recruit officers if they think they're going to be held liable for something. So anyway, it's just hard with recruitment. And so you can't keep police officers. You're not going to recruit no police officers if they think they're going to be personally sued for something that, so anyway, that's what that means. Is there, Anything you want to say about
Yeah, hold on.
that
No,
piece?
I don't want to say no, no, but I do. I keep seeing this a lot, right? I keep seeing this a lot, and I just want to just show us something here. Didn't we do this already? We had a black Democratic president already. This is it's amazing just to see this the utter stupidity. And I'm not calling you Black Sam. I'm just saying this thought process, this indoctrination, right? This normalization within the psyche of a lot of Black people, right? What is the normalization? That it's something strange to have a Black president, but it's quite normal to have a white one. They could mess up for 400 years, but it's so comforting, right? Because it's just normal. This is why a lot of Black people were opposing me in Seattle, Washington. Somebody said, well, what do you mean this is why? Well, I'm going to explain to you. Well, the way that I talk, the way that I address the situation, right? It made a lot of Black people uncomfortable, right? Because it wasn't normal for me to feel empowered. It wasn't normal for me to have the poise that I had, right? It was normal for a white man. If they seen a white man in the position speaking the way that I spoke, they would feel normalized. But the moment it becomes a Black man, they feel like something is wrong. That's why this statement is problematic, right? They felt like something was wrong because I knew how to stand in my own value, because I knew who I was, right? And I carried it well wherever I went. But they interpreted it because of their own self esteem or lack of, as I think that I'm better than them, or I'm think that I'm better than everybody. Right? He's prideful. He's just trying to get this for himself. Well, this is what I'm saying. That is where that comes from. That is that slave mentality. That is that indoctrination and socialization that have you feeling, right? That anything that has to do with being excellent and great is abnormal for us as a people. We have to normalize greatness, right? One quick thing, and I've said this before. You got a little Asian that grows up, her mom is a lawyer and her dad's a doctor, right? Well, by the time that she's 15, she knows that she's going to be either a lawyer or a doctor. It's not even a stretch for her. It's something that's normal. Uh, in our communities, you're growing up and your daddy and mama is not a lawyer and a doctor. When you think, well, why don't you be a lawyer and a doctor? It's such a far gone idea for you. It's something that is almost impossible for you to believe that you can become that, right? We as a people have to normalize greatness, right? Where it's something that we believe, right? That it's like walking down the street like a lot of these other communities do. So you see the head start mentally, emotionally, psychologically that those children have because they just feel like, oh, yeah, of course I'm going to be this. Of course I'm going to be that. Right? But we can't be there because people in the community will push you down if you try to be excellent, if you try to be brilliant, right? Because you think you're better than anybody else, right? Oh, you're just cocky. That's a problem. So this statement here, didn't we do this already? We had a black Democratic president already. That is what that is. See, coming from that space, it is abnormal to have this, right? If we had the first black president and he messed up, I guarantee you, how many presidents have we had? Well, in order for us to even equate to the messing up that these presidents have done in this country, are you serious? Well, you're about to have me flash around here. That's it.
Okay, I'm gonna try to bring this presentation up real quick.
All right.
Wait, what did I do? What I oh I know what to do. Here I go. Here I go. Let me see. I find it. Window. Here we go. Oh wait, no, that's not it. That says live. Oh, where is it? Let me see if I can. Oh wait, hold on.
Go ahead.
Okay. Um. Oh, I don't know why it's not coming up.
Oh, okay, because I have to push the thing. Let me see. Did you bring it up?
No, not yet. It's not coming up yet.
Did you go to the same place you did before?
Yeah. Did you
Okay.
press something? Did
I
you
pressed
change
it.
it?
No, but when you brought it up the first time, I had to press OK. But try it again. Let me see.
Uh, yeah, it's not. Hold on. Let me try it. Let me go log out. Let me try it one more time.
Yeah, do that. Do that. Hold on, guys. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, it's not. I don't see it again.
Okay, hold on. Let me see. You see it now?
Uh, try it. Let's see. Uh, no, let me just see if I can do this.
There
And
you go.
then,
There it is. There it is. There it is. Right there.
okay, slideshow. Okay. Is it okay? You can see it now?
Yep. I'm put it on the full thing right there.
Okay. Um,
Don't be clicking no
okay.
pictures. Don't be clicking no pictures in your phone or whatever you're going to do, girl. On accident.
Okay. So I wanted to start with this. You guys can see the because I can't see you now.
Hmm.
I wanted to start here because this is the Lord gave me this, right? And I don't know why he told me to go to this particular scripture, and I think it kind of relates to the question about I'm voting for Christ, right? So this particular scripture is Ezekiel, and Ezekiel was having these. God was giving him visions and prophecy, and it says, then the Spirit lifted me up and brought me to the gate of the house of the Lord that faces east. There
Hmm.
at the entrance of the gate were 25 men, and I saw among them Jazaniah, son of Azur, and Pelatiah, I don't know how to say that, son of Benai, whatever, leaders of the people. And then the Lord said to me, son of man, these are the men who are plotting evil and giving wicked advice in the city. And so these were these political leaders, and that God was telling Ezekiel to prophesy because they're saying things to the people and trying to get the people to have more faith in the city than what I'm telling them to do. And so what was actually happening is that they're in exile, and at that time they were following the rules of the people that the pagans that in the city where they were, and
Hmm.
they were starting to put their trust in the city, and also listening to these political advisors who were giving them the information that God was telling them, that ain't what I told you to tell the people.
Hmm.
So anyway, he tells them to prophesy against these 25 men. And then he says, they say, haven't our houses been recently rebuilt? The city is a pot and we are the meat in it. And from there, now this goes back to Daniel when he told them, go ahead and build your houses because this about to be a long it's about to be a long wait,
Hmm.
because y'all been disobedient, and so God is going. You've been disobedient, so you're gonna have to ride out this punishment.
Right.
And so he's saying, just go sit in that discipline,
Mm.
sit there
Mm.
in it for a while, right? And so these advisors, these 25 men, were basically trying to tell them, oh, don't worry about it. God ain't gonna bring no judgment. And they were saying the city is the pot, which means the fire that it was the city was covering them, and the meat was inside of it. So the meat what they were thinking was them being protected in
Mm.
this pot.
Mm.
So anyway, it kind of relates to where
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
going
yeah.
with this, huh?
Hmm.
And so when they ask that question about how do you vote, I mean, not how you vote, but according to your faith, uh, what I get from this is God tells the believers that you have to pray for your leaders, you have to pray for your nation, and the way you engage as someone of faith. I don't care if you're Hebrew, if you claim to be a Buddhist, whatever, Christian believers. The way God instructs us is to say, uh, you will ask questions, you will engage conversations, you will seek out information about what are the policies and how do they affect the people in society. You don't just pledge your loyalty to any political party, and you don't just vote just because that's what everybody else is doing. And so the expectation is, number one, you maintain your obligation to God first. You don't put your trust in the city. You don't put your trust in ideological alliances. You put your trust and your faith in God, and you seek out how those policies, again, align for the people. It's not just, well, hey, they said this, so I'm just going to vote that way. So anyway, so that was, I wanted to just share that.
Okay.
Oh, I don't think it's going.
Oh, I'm ready. Just tell me when you're ready because I took it off.
Oh, what? No,
You were ready. I can put it right back on. It's back on.
go ahead.
You ready?
Yeah, it's not moving.
Well, you on.
Okay, I can't get the slide to move. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So I want to go here. I'm gonna try to go is I know we run it. We got how much time we at, Dre?
I do what I want to do.
All right. Okay. Now, Erykah Badu, and for us, we know what woke is, right? That's like our Black conscious movement, right? That's where Erykah Badu is like, are you woke? Are you conscious to what is happening? Are you aware racially, and the injustices, and how are we going to address those injustices? Now, to me, the woke movement has been hijacked, so to speak. Right? It was kind of like Dre. You remember? So with the organization that Dre and I and our Dove and a lot of our family members, we kind of went around to all these different Black organizations, and people didn't really want to help us unless we were going to do it their way. And their way was to march. Their way was to, blow up stuff, set stuff on fire, go snatch microphones out of people's hands while they're talking, and all these things that really didn't work for us. And so Drake said, wait a minute, I'm not, we went to everybody. We went to I ain't gonna say no names, but we went to all of them. Didn't we? I mean,
yeah, we did.
Right. And so Dre was like, nah, I'm not feeling that. And we all agreed. And so what he did next was, when we met with the chief of police, he said, I'm willing to work with you, even though we can't bring our brother back. I'm willing to work with you to see how we can increase police accountability. Now, that approach would have been called, under this new woke agenda, that would have been called respectability politics. And that was so that the way that we approached it, people didn't agree with it. So we were already 3 years in of trying to pass statewide legislation, which would apply to every police department, not just one police department. But by the time the George Floyd protest broke out, there was a different movement. And that movement was the defund movement. And at that time, we were having this conflict. And the conflict was between, are we going to push reform, or are we going to push outright revolution? And so within this woke movement was the idea that police departments have to be dismantled because they cannot, because of the systemic racism within them, and they were built upon racism, they have to be overthrown, and we have to start all over again. So it was abolition. And so anyway, that was very problematic, because the path that we were on was changing the law so that police officers could be held accountable. Now, we were the victims. All these people that were doing this Black Lives Matter movement, they ain't lost nobody. So they were, so to speak, kind of like, you know, pushing a separate movement that, you know, didn't really align with where we were going. We were trying to get more de-escalation training. We were trying to get the police to call first aid, because when they shot Shay, they let him bleed out for 7.5 minutes. We were trying to get independent investigations. We were trying to get independent prosecutors. We were trying to ban chokeholds. We were trying to ban lateral neck restraints. We were trying to, and trying to improve the inquest process. We were trying to stop officers from just transferring from one police department to the next when they get fired from somewhere because of discipline. So we were trying to push practical solutions, whereas the defund movement didn't really have, to me, the Black Lives Matter didn't really have substance in what direction they were going to. So to me, it was a lost opportunity because there wasn't actual policy that was put in place to address what we were trying to address, which was police accountability. And again, we weren't against all officers. We weren't against every police department. And to the people who were in this defund movement, we weren't going far enough because the goal was the overthrow and the dismantling of systems of oppression. So that's why their movement was a little different from what we were doing. And what Dre and I were able to accomplish, not Dre and I would say everybody. There were tons of organizations, there were tons of people, and again, we didn't just fight for Black victims of police violence. We actually fought for all victims of police violence. So we had white families, we had Pacific Islander families, we had Native American families, we had Billy Langford was a white man who was killed from a mental health call. So there were
Latino.
all type. Go ahead.
We
You
had
said something.
Latinos. Had Latinos.
And Latinos, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, Daniel Covarrubias. Um, so I say that to say this: what was happening was, and what's happening in this woke movement is it's centered around race, and I'll kind of spell this out in a minute. But what we're seeing right now, we think is a Black conscious movement, and that's why we demonize anybody who don't do it this way, this certain way, right? And so anybody who dissents, it's okay to call them an Uncle Tom, to say they're using respectability politics, to use violence, to run smear campaigns against them because they're not aligning, they're not on code with how it's supposed to be. So anyway, what I'm trying to get people to understand, what we're seeing with this woke agenda is so far left that, and again, I'm not saying we don't need to address police accountability. I'm not saying that white supremacy or white privilege doesn't exist. I ain't saying that. I'm saying that it's gone so far that it's kind of hard to reel it back to actual practical solutions, like the police accountability bill. Now officers are actually being charged and being
Convicted.
sent and being convicted. You don't see none of that happened with the Black Lives Matter movement. And again, I'm not saying that there wasn't some substance to the movement. I'm saying the practical solution and outcome of it. It was a national reckoning with race. I agree, but the practical solutions of the movement, I think, was lost. It was a lost opportunity. So anyway, to me, this is not what I'm seeing right now is not an extension of the civil rights movement, although it looks that way. And so you'll hear things like equality, social justice, freedom, and then you're hearing DEI. diversity, equity, and inclusion, CRT, critical race theory. I talked about the women's productive rights. So all of these terms are being used um, to push a movement. And so, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'll just kind of use that as an example, doesn't actually mean what it used to mean.
Mm.
And so when we used to say diversity back in the 80s, that was bringing in more people into a corporation or into an institution, and where there's not dominating, a certain race is not being dominated. It doesn't actually mean that anymore. And so DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, now diversity means we look different, but we think the same.
Mm.
You got to align with the code. And then equity means not what it used to mean. It means now I can't make you feel uncomfortable.
Mm.
um, I can't say anything that makes you uncomfortable. Um, Inclusion, it doesn't mean, I think I said, yeah. And so all of these terms, sorry, equity means equal outcome, right? No matter how much accomplishment or achievement somebody put into something, everybody should have the same outcome.
Mm.
And inclusion means, again, I got those two terms mixed up. I can't hurt your feelings. So if you think you're a girl and you want me to use a certain pronoun and I don't use that certain pronoun, I'm misgendering you, and so now I'm causing harm. Or if I want to give a speech on a campus and you disagree with the speech, then I'm causing harm and I can't come into that campus and give my speech. And so this is what's happening all around. And this is a hustle, right? This is a $16 billion industry. And white folks are racking up money like crazy with this stuff. So the federal government is kind of like putting mandates on all these corporations to have this DEI compliance. And if you're not in compliance, oh, no problem. I can send you a consultant for 50,000. And so again, like I said, this is a $16 billion industry. Charlemagne the God said it was BS, because it doesn't. Uh, there's no data that says that this helps relationships on the job or that it helps people to work better together. And then we got CRT. I don't know who knows about this. This is critical race theory. This is this whole thing of like psychological pathology. They're putting this into our schools. Now, what they say on the surface is it's helping Black children to understand their history, and they're correcting the history that they have not included before. So this is taking Black books and educating Black people, Black children in our public schools around their true history, and that's not exactly what it is. So this is a way to radicalize and politicize our children in public schools, and again, they call it critical race theory, which comes from. I'll get to where it comes from. Who's the actual theorist behind this? But this is, if you hear in Project 2020 or even Trump's agenda, was to stop federal funding for federal funded schools that are pushing this CRT, gender theory, transgenderism. We got to where we took prayer out of school, we took the Bible out of school, we took all these things out of the schools, but now we are pushing this critical race theory into the schools. And so again, it's to awaken like a revolutionary consciousness in young people, to kind of start them when they're young, so that by the time they're ready to vote, they've already been indoctrinated. And so again, it's to groom them, and it's kind of like giving them a bogus story of, and again, it's not that slavery isn't real, I guess I'm saying that ain't the whole Black experience. You see, slavery interrupted the Black experience, and our history goes way past before slavery. And so to me, this is just a way to make Black children to perpetuate this pathology that we are inferior. So that's why I kind of got a problem with this stuff. I don't, and again, um, uh, uh, I'm not saying that Black children don't need that. I guess what I'm trying to say about public schools, because you'll hear in the Project 2025 that they're going to, they want to dismantle the Department of Education, and they want to remove queer and gender fluid identity. So right now, the definition for the nuclear family has been changed in the dictionary. It no longer means marriage between a mother and a father. The definition for women has been changed. The definition for gender has changed. So now it's no more male or female. It's unlimited. You could be non-binary. You could be anything. And so what's happening is they're saying, to say that you're born as a male or a female at birth is white supremacy. And so to me, a lot of these things are being weaponized in a way to push another agenda. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah or no? Bruh?
Yeah, I'm looking at. I thought you was asking the chat.
I
I'm
can't see the chat. I can't see the chat.
Huh?
I can't see it.
Oh, I don't know why, sis.
Okay. Are people commenting? Because I kind of want to take a not that I
Tell
want to
you
take
what, I'm gonna see if somebody want to come on and ask a question. Devin, get on, come on, man, because you've been going through the whole thing, saying stuff. You want to come on and ask your question, bruh? All right, I put the link in the chat if you want to come on here, bruh. Woo.
what's going.
No, I'm just trying to see who's gonna come on.
Okay. Okay, and I'll say this too. Even like we have these terms, right? Intersectionality now. We got the term BIPOC. We've got criminal justice reform. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that none of these things mean what you and I think they mean.
Mm-hmm.
When I say criminal justice reform, I'm talking about addressing the disparities in sentencing. I'm talking about addressing prosecutors who are corrupt. I'm talking about uh, accountability for people who are being funneled into the criminal justice system who are innocent, or where there's corrupt policing, corrupt prosecutions, excessive, all these enhancements. So when I say criminal justice reform, that's not actually what this new woke movement, what they mean. And again, they mean abolishing the prison system completely. Uh, and again, it means different things to different people. But for the most part, that's pretty much what it is. And I'll get to why there's that theory. And so this is how this movement is moving, right?
Somebody's coming on, sis. Let's see. Ed, I can't even see you, bro. Turn some light
Can't
on.
see me. Can't
Goodness
see me.
gracious. Turn some light on, man.
Hold on. I'm gonna turn some light on. Hold on.
Yeah, turn some light on.
Let me see if I.
See me.
Yeah, we can see you better now, man. Go ahead. What's going on with
Yeah,
it, loved
man.
one?
This Ed from Ohio, man. I'm like an hour away from Youngstown. I know your pops grew up there.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's What's going on?
I want to know what y'all think about the assassination. Y'all think that was an inside job, or you think that was to get him in the White House for Trump?
Oh, okay. You want
Go
you
ahead.
want to answer? You
You
want to
want me to?
answer, Dre?
No, go ahead, girl.
Okay. I believe it's real. And I'll tell you why. One of Trump's agenda is going after what he calls the deep state. And I really didn't know what that meant, right? Um, because no one's ever used that term. There's only one person who came up with the term, but Trump is the one who made it popular. And he's pretty bold for doing that. So the deep state is this parallel government. These are unelected bureaucrats that are working behind Congress, or some of them are just administrative agencies that are not coming up with laws and not going through a legislative process. And so when I really dug into the deep state, the first thing that came up was the CIA.
Hmm.
And so the CIA before was called the Office of a Secret Service. It was called OSS. That was after the bombing on Pearl Harbor. And there was a guy who went to Roosevelt and was like, "Man, I really want to, I really want to, I want to do intelligence." And so, Roosevelt was like, "Okay, go ahead." They was involved in espionage. They was doing all this deceitful stuff. So when Truman got in office, he was like, "Man, no." He said, "Let's get rid of that department because they could become a police force, an unregulated police force." And he was concerned that this department would go that far, right? And like not answer to Congress. And so what he feared actually happened. And so Truman is the one who came up with the CIA. And that was after our interaction with the Soviet Union, which ended up in the Cold War. So he came up with the CIA, which is Central Intelligence. And the reason why we got bombed is because intelligence wasn't centralized. It was in one department here, here, here. So the CIA was this centralized. So anyway, the deep state is, they're saying it's a parallel government of people who are running Congress. And these are people who got billions and billions of dollars. These are lobbyists who are with the military industrial complex trying to incite wars. These are other people that are just pretty much just went rogue. And so what I really looked into, I'm going, so anyway, the Democrats is basically saying the deep state doesn't exist. They're saying this is a conspiracy theory, that Trump is making this up. It doesn't really exist. There's all these studies to say it's not real. Then I went to the Department of Justice website and it says the big lie. The Department of Justice is involved in the crack epidemic. Now, you could tell that lie to the Venezuelans. You could tell that lie to the East Indians. But Black folk, no. The government was involved in bringing crack cocaine into. Why? Because we know who Free Ray Rick is, right? And so and you guys can Google this stuff, right? You can look it up, and they're saying that this is all a lie. But the journalists who exposed the CIA, who exposed FBI, who exposed the Department of Justice, because y'all seen To Kill a Messenger?
Sacramento Bee, they killed him.
They killed him.
They
He's
killed him.
dead. So do I think it wasn't real? I know it was real. And that's because he said he's going after them. He's going to dismantle the deep state. And again, people are trying to make us believe that the deep state ain't real.
Hmm.
Right.
That it's a conspiracy theory, that he's just making this up. He wants to be a dictator. He's going to control the government. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. And see, and the reason why they can't buy him, because he got his own money. And what they're able to do with these other politicians is they're able to buy him off. And so he's basically like, I'm about to go after them. They've been around, again, these unelected bureaucrats just starting an agency, making laws and arresting people. And they're not doing this according to Congress. They're not going through the legislative process. And so, and again, like there's a department of anyway. So yes, there's all these different unelected bureaucrats who are not elected or appointed, and they're pretty much they're calling the shots. That's how that is. I'll give you like the Department of Human and Health Services. There's a transgender person that's running that department, and she, he, whatever, they are pretty much going from state to state and changing the medical guidelines so that they can perform sex change
Jeez, what
operations on
happened?
children.
At like 13, I don't know. You done got your light done went out, bruh.
Okay, did you hear what I said?
Ed, can
I
you
Mm-hmm.
hear?
can't hear y'all.
You can't hear?
Hello?
Something on
Yeah.
your end,
Hello?
partner. You gotta tap back in one time. All right. We're gonna you tap back in, Ed. Who else is coming on? Get some of this game, man. Who gonna come talk to my sis? They shy around here. Ed, your thing is all dark. Something went out on your end. We can't hear you. We can't see you.
Me?
No,
Oh,
no. Ed that came on, he's trying to come back in, but yeah, something's going on your end, family. You got to fix that because we can't see you. Who's coming in? Hurry up, man. We ain't got that much longer. Sis is on a roll. Come on up in here, man.
yeah, we might have to do it.
You know, come on up in here. Yeah. Anybody got some questions for sis?
Okay, let
Go
me
ahead.
move forward.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
how much time? Because we may have to.
Yeah, we can
I'll,
come back again. We can come back again because we already been on like an hour and 37 minutes.
okay. So let me just get this. Let me start right here. Uh, so I wanted to start with. I know a lot of people don't know who Herbert Marcuse is. He was a German philosopher. And I know you've heard a lot of these terms. You've heard we have nothing to lose but our change. You've heard by any means necessary. But Herbert Marcuse is named as the father of the new left. And in addition to Herbert, Marcuse was also Karl Marx. And so they had a theory of a philosophy that was actually from Germany. It was called the Frankfurt. It was not like a think tank, but it was actually a school where they were coming up with these theories. Now,
Hold on, sis.
Marquis,
Hold on to that. Hold on to that. We got somebody I wonder. What's up, loved one?
Hey, Dre, how you doing? What's going
Your
on?
your
This.
your, your audio is hella low.
Oh, hold on. Let me make sure it's turned all the way up. Can you hear me now?
We could hear you a little bit. It's just like muffled though.
Hold on.
There it is. There it is. You good there?
Okay, I'm good right here.
Nope. You was just good. Now you went back.
How about
No, you was just good, man. What'd you do?
now? Hold up.
Right there. You
I'm
just
just.
hit it. Right there. Go ahead.
All right, am I good right here?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Now you went back, man.
Oh my God, man. Don't do this to me. My phone, talking about my phone, man.
Somebody said move your pinky. Your pinky must be covering the phone.
Okay, how about now?
We can't hardly hear you. We heard you a minute ago. Is your hand covering the speaker?
It shouldn't be. Hold on. Let me.
Let me hear you.
Mic testing.
You're good right there. Don't touch anything.
All
God, go ahead.
right, am I good?
You keep going in and out.
Uh,
Okay, go in and come back out. Go in and come back out. Yeah. Okay, here he is right there, sister. Oh,
He gonna have to just type it or whatever.
what'd you say?
He should. I think he might just have to type his question or
What you got to say?
all right, y'all can hear me now.
yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, you can't hear me.
You keep going in and out. Can hear you now, but you're going out.
Oh man.
We can hear you. Go ahead. Speak.
Yeah, I wanted. There.
You gotta get your audio together, man. My sister's going crazy. Just type it, man. You gotta get your audio together and come back. Go ahead, sis. Go ahead, break
All
down.
right. Okay. Okay, so let me talk about Herbert Marcuse.
All right.
So Herbert Marcuse came to America, and this is after there's like the French Revolution. There's all these different German philosophers that were from England, France, who pushed this ideology, I guess I should say. And Herbert Marcuse comes to America, and he is on the college campuses teaching. And he's actually the person that mentored Angela Davis. If anybody knows who that is, y'all know who Angela Davis is. And you know, Angela Davis is a devout communist. Right now, she is praised all over the place. But she was a communist, and she was trained by, it's actually Marcuse is the way you say it. But a lot of these terms that we're hearing, like by any means necessary, we have nothing to lose but our chains, these terms actually came from Karl Marx and from this body of work where they're trying to understand how humans interact in society. And again, this is like way back in the 1800s, right? But Herbert Marcuse is who came to America, is the father of the New Left. And again, this is where we get these revolutionary movements. So you have the women's liberation movement, you have the gay liberation movement back in the 60s, you have the Black liberation movement, and then you had SNCC, which were the students who were on, who kind of right around the time of Martin Luther King pushing the civil rights movement. So these movements actually spurred out of Herbert Marcuse's revolutionary teaching. And again, the end goal was communism and socialism. And so what they believed is that at that time, they were, their theory was, and again, that's why we kind of have this lens of oppressed and oppressor, right? This is the framework that Herbert Marcuse, Karl Marx, it was all of pretty much like they're borrowing from like the French Revolution. They're borrowing some up from some of these different movements that came around from all in Germany, and England and France. And so what they believe that the bourgeois and the workers, the bourgeois owned everything, and they were oppressing the workers. And the only way that they were holding a lot of the power and the money was because they worked their way there by oppressing the people who work for them. And so their theory was that the working class would rise up and they would overthrow, because this was an economic struggle. This is what they believed, that this was a class struggle, and that they would overthrow the government. Well, or not the government, I'm sorry, they were called the proletariat, and that they would eventually seize power and they would have collective power amongst the working class, not the people, not the capitalists who owned the factories and who were making a lot of money. So they felt that the value was in the people who were uh, um, the capitalists owned the means of production, and the workers were more valuable. And so they wanted the working class to overthrow and to reverse the society, reset the society completely, and that the people would hold the power. So the people, capitalism was actually working for them. Their lives were improving. They were getting stable. They were getting comfortable. And so what Herbert Marcuse was saying, Marcuse was, well, that's a false consciousness. They don't realize, they don't know, that they're being oppressed. And so that's where this critical race theory comes in. Is Marcuse is the father of critical theory. What happened is now in the woke agenda, they added race to critical race theory. They took the economic out and added race, and and so this is where this revolutionary stuff comes from. And he's the father of this. He had this vision of feminism. We had first wave feminism, we had second wave feminism, we had third wave feminism. We're in third wave feminism now, where he didn't believe that just voting and equal rights for women, he didn't feel that that was enough. He wanted society to go so far that women would replace men.
Mm.
And since the working class didn't do what he expected them to do, he said, I'm going to go to the ghetto. And I'm going to use the energy of the black folks in the hood. I'm going to use their energy so that they would be the revolutionaries now. And I'm going to go to the women. And so anyway, he pretty much trained Angela Davis. She's the one who spread this Marxist gospel, because at the heart of it is Marxism. All that. But what we see today in this woke movement is at the heart and the root of it is Marxism, and is these philosophers who pretty much use black leaders to push their revolution. Now, what this revolution is to overthrow society, and we would all own property together. So that's what equality means, right? Nobody owns property. Nobody's rich, nobody's poor. You go from an individual with rights who can progress on your own, who believes your own, you own your own stuff, you work hard, and you advance in society. Now we are a collective, and it goes from individual rights, which was what they believed for, in a free market society. We no longer have that in socialism. So this is the agenda behind the new woke left, far left, not calling all Democrats, but I'm saying the far left agenda is moving in this direction. And that's why you see the nuclear family between a male and a female. You see that definition being overturned. You see the gender fluidity, because what they believed is there would not be these binaries, that it would, in society, nobody would be oppressed. And so now that, it could be unlimited genders. It doesn't have to be a woman or a man. It doesn't have to be these things, because that is oppressive. And so this is the direction that we are moving in. And what you'll find in a lot of these movements, this was Manning Johnson. There's a book that he wrote called Color, Communism, and Common Sense. And he exposed this communist agenda way back in 1958. And his communist plan is to use the black race to sow division, incite race wars, and bring about this socialist totalitarian state. And he defected from the communist regime because in communism, you cannot believe in God. You can't have a religion. And he was raised as a Christian. And so he pretended not to believe in God, to be a part of this communist the Communist Manifesto again. And so what was happening was Black people were being exploited, the Black leaders, and they were being sent to incite these race tension, which race tension was already there. But the revolution was to overthrow society. So that's where the Black Panthers came. That's where, and what was next to the Black Panthers, remember SNCC, that was the students who were protesting against the Vietnam War. And eventually Black Panthers didn't want white allies. And so actually SNCC was one of the biggest student movements in America that ever existed in America. They were that big. They were protesting against the war. But the Black Panthers, they just wanted black nationalism, and so a group that came out of SNCC was called the Weather Underground Strategy. Now they were the comrades to the Black Panthers, and they were blowing up government buildings. And this was after one of the Black Panthers. I can't remember which one got killed. One of them, I can't remember his name though. After he got killed, they started bombing government buildings. It wasn't the Black Panthers, but it was their comrades. And it was what they called the Weather Underground Strategy. Mm-hmm. Of course, the FBI shut them down, but they left behind a document. And in that document, there was a 6-point plan. And in that plan, which they called the Weather Underground Strategy, the first one was destroy capitalism. The second one was use the weapon of choice to destroy capitalism was systemic racism and police racism. The third one was identify the victim classes. The fourth one was organize the victim classes. The fifth one was engage in international solidarity with the global movement. And the last one was attack and dethrone God. This was inside of this plan that they had in the 60s. And what happened in the 60s is they used the civil unrest of the Vietnam War and the Black power activists, which is Angela Davis, went and ministered this communist gospel, revolutionary gospel to the Black power activists. And so this agenda is kind of like what started to play out after the George Floyd protests. So back in the 60s, it was the civil unrest, and they were trying to, again, overthrow society because that's what they want to usher in, this communist socialist regime and a totalitarian state where, capitalism no longer exists. Property is owned by everybody. There's equal distribution. Now, some democratic socialism is not wrong, right? Because that means free healthcare, free education. But this was the extreme. And they, at that time, they said, we can't use violence anymore because violence doesn't work. That's because the FBI shut them down. So this time with George Floyd protests, but this has actually been, these policies have kind of been sneaking in over hello? Uh-oh.
Go ahead.
Anyway, what Manning Johnson was saying is that these Black leaders and what Herbert Marcuse and Karl Marx, what was drawn out of that was that the power would be centralized between the people who are the brains behind the movement, but the masses could not know. And the revolutionaries, the revolutionary agitators who are on the ground, they can't know the agenda. The agenda is to work towards a communist society. Now, socialism hasn't ever worked in any country. China, Soviet Union, Cambodia, all of these different places, Cuba, hundreds of millions of people died because of this socialist trying to overthrow society to usher in communism. Millions of people died. It's never worked. And so anyway, Manning Johnson kind of exposed that these communists were using these black leaders, and this is what Marcuse said is, since the working class didn't overthrow the proletariat, didn't overthrow the capitalists, now what we're seeing now is the property owners are the white privileged. And the oppressed now, because remember, it went from economics to race. The oppressed now are any minorities, and they have to, again, like psychological uh, um, pathology. And so again, what I'm saying is that's the problem I got with CRT is, or critical race theory, is our history didn't start with slavery. And to me, it is instilling in people, black people, or especially blacks, is our inferiority, and programming us that we can never make it out of this condition, that we will always be oppressed, that white people are always going to be more privileged than we are, and that there's no way to solve it. The only way to solve this is to overthrow this society and to start all over again, to reset it. So anyway, I'm gonna stop there. But when you see Project 2025, a lot of the stuff that is in Project 2025 is a response to the socialism that they're starting to see in this country. And even though it doesn't say that, right? It says criminal justice reform. It says, we want real freedom. Trump is gonna. He said he's gonna be a dictator. And so he actually didn't say that. What he did say was, on the first day that he's in office, he's going to use his executive power to start drilling for the wall. And because and his policy around immigration is a bit excessive, I will agree. But what he's basically saying is asylum seekers have to stay in Mexico until they go through the right process. You can't come from Venezuela and all these different, if that's your home country, you got to stay in that country until you get processed or vetted. And then you could come to Mexico, and then you could come into America. So he's not saying an outright ban on all immigrants. He's saying, I want to stop illegal aliens from coming into America. And so now Biden got in office, and this is one of the biggest problems that people have with Kamala Harris, is that they just opened up the borders, and they just let anybody. Now we have like over 10, 20,000, I don't know what the proper term, immigrants, but they're illegals. They broke the law to get into this country, and they come here and they get free health care. They get free college. They get debit cards with thousands and thousands of dollars on them. And so anyway, Texas passed they're supposed to be a sanctuary city, but what they did was they took the people who came into their country, the migrants, and dropped them off in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And so now Chicago, the black people, because they're more politically savvy, and they know how to get people out of office, so they went crazy. They're like, you didn't invest in our schools. You promised us money for our schools. Our people in our communities are dying. Black men are dying like crazy. You won't invest in our communities. You've done all these things to us. And now you're going to turn around and give our schools, our parks, to migrants. And so they said, they've always voted Democrat. They said they're turning Chicago red. They're going to vote Republican. They're going to get everyone out. And so they are so angry about this because the limited resources that they have are now being used for millions and millions of dollars for the migrants. And this is also happening in New York. And so New York is going crazy. Chicago is going crazy. Um, and so the ACLU, and this is how we get played, right? This is part of this Marxism is is for the bourgeois, the not the bourgeois, but the elites to push the agenda, right? Because they say, well, the people on the bottom, they can't really explain it. They're not intelligent. They're inferior. So the ACLU, and you can find this, they're trying to pass a law right now to stop the migrants from voting in a federal election. And so Dr. Umar Johnson spoke on this. I don't know if you guys remember Trump saying black jobs, and the way he said it, people are like, he said black jobs, and everybody's making fun of it. Dr. Umar Johnson said Trump was right. And I peeped this a long time ago. The migrants are coming in, they're registering them to vote. And that's why they're giving them housing. That's why there has been all this money, and the borders are just, open season. So they're being registered to vote. And so there's a law that the conservatives are trying to pass right now to stop the migrants from voting in the federal election, because that's actually a crime. But what's happening, and Kamala Harris is not responding to this, and actually the Democrats are all saying that, and the ACLU is filed. You can find this online. They're saying that black people don't, and they put all this data out and saying black people don't have IDs. Black people, this is a poll tax, for us to put gas in our car and have to drive to the polls. We don't have cars. We don't have transportation. We can't afford a birth certificate. So what the law that they're trying to pass is for every voter to have an ID, to show an ID to vote. And the Democrats are saying, well, the black people, and the minorities, that would be a poll tax for them. They can't afford an ID. And there's a lot of them that don't have IDs. And I'm like, that's the craziest thing I ever heard in the world. What do you mean we don't have IDs? We have $1 trillion economic buying power. We have black governors, black mayors. Where did this notion come that we don't have enough money to buy an ID, to get an ID? So using all this data and, ACLU saying all this stuff is really, it's just a facade to use the sympathy for black people as a weapon to do what they really want to do. And that's to get more migrants voting because they know they don't have IDs. So anyway, so that's the game. I'm gonna stop there. But that's the game with and that's this is a big problem amongst black people right now, is the migrant crisis and inflation. If you know right now, your groceries is like gas, and people are struggling. And so those are the things that are important to black people, is our day-to-day life. The other thing with the education, they were talking about dissolving the Department of Education, and people were like, "Oh my God, he said he's gonna, that's crazy." Our public schools are, they know that our children, our black children, are struggling in writing, math, and reading. They're calling these high schools dropout factories. They've been failing in these poor neighborhoods for forever. But yet, the Bush administration and Donald Trump pushed school choice. School choice is like charter schools, private schools, where that money could come back to the parents, and the parents can make the decision of where they want to take their children. So you don't have to go to the school that's in that district or your assigned school. You could take the money and take it to whatever school you want to take them to, because now you have the power. And so the Department of Education is this bureaucracy who is telling the schools, you ain't gonna get this federal funding, if you don't push this curriculum, which is crazy to me, is I don't know why we want our so-called oppressor to come up with our curriculum for what they're going to teach our children, because you don't know what they're teaching your children. But with charter schools, if we had more charter schools, they could be ran, and the people in that community can develop the curriculum, and you could put prayer back in it. You could do whatever. But the Democrats are fighting against school choice, and that's because of the teachers' unions, and also because it's a tool of indoctrination. So anyway, I'm gonna stop there. But I wish I would have. I've been raising kids for 30 years, and all my children have struggled in public school. I have always wished that I could have money to take my children to my school of choice. And I'll tell you why this is important to me, is because when I went down to Dallas, I came from Washington, I took all my children to Dallas. I enrolled them in a charter school. When we got to that charter school, all four of my children were behind in reading, math, and writing. And those black teachers, this was an all-black charter school, the black teachers had an expectation that they would learn. And they brought them up to standard. It wasn't this attitude of AP classes and gifted classes. Black people are not, the black kids are just not smart enough to pass these tests, and the tests are racist. So let's just, remove all the tests and just dummy it down. And so that's what's happening in public schools right now. They're getting rid of all the accelerated classes. They're getting rid of all the gifted classes because only they're saying it's racist. And so again, this is where this critical race theory thing comes in, and weaponizing race for everything. And so, and again, like I'll use police accountability for an example. It's not just black people that are getting killed by the police. There was actually a white man that a officer sat on his neck for 13 minutes, just like George Floyd. But nobody knows who that person is because they don't talk about it. And what I say is a white person doesn't get no more justice than a black person when it comes to police accountability. They're going to cover up the death of the white person just as much as they're going to cover it up for the black person. They're going to lie. And so I say deracialize it just the way we did. We didn't make it about black people getting killed by the police. And so that's why it was effective, because we didn't make it, we hate cops. We're going to be revolutionary. We're going to overthrow, the police state. We work with law enforcement. And that's why it was passed unanimously, 96-0. That's never been done before, ever. And so anyway, there are studies now. There's a guy who did a study at Harvard, and he found this guy is he did a study way back in Michael Brown. He started when Michael Brown got killed. He said, well, I can't protest, I can't do this, but what I can do is I can support the movement with data. And so he started this study, and what he found is that there is bias in policing with excessive use of force, even when black people are compliant. But he found no bias with fatal encounters or with deadly force. Everybody was equally. And so he got death threats. And this is a black man who came up, who did this study. And so, my thing is, if you only focus on race, then you forget other variables. Number one, more men are killed or excessive use of force, and not just black men. More people who live in neighborhoods that make less than 100,000. About 95% of police encounters are in those neighborhoods under 100,000. The 5% are in neighborhoods that are people make above 200,000. So that's a class issue. There's a power issue. If you only make it about race, then you don't consider other variables of how to solve or what solutions to come up with. So anyway, this goes back to the Weather Underground strategy where they were saying, they're weaponizing race and weaponizing police brutality, and so no one wants to accept this the fact that this study or other ways of seeing deadly force or coming up with real solutions. So anyway, I'm gonna stop there because I know I'm talking too much. And so
That
yeah,
was awesome. We got this awesome. We're gonna have sis back for sure, and I just want to thank my little sister Devitta Briscoe brought you guys a classroom. Boy, I'm trying to tell you guys got to come back and go over this thing over and over and over again and get that information. Boy, she gonna be back with a lot more fire. You know. Anyway, she was just at the conference with us in LA. Had a great time, and you can have the last word, sis.
uh, um, yeah, I got lots more because again, like I said, I really believe that the woke agenda, it's a sort of a religion, honestly, and it's really hijacked our true Black consciousness and what we want to achieve for our race. And again, it's shrouded on all this language, of justice and equality, but that's just used, uh, which is it's not genuine. It's not a genuine movement. There's a movement behind a movement. I also want you guys to go look up Project 2030. Um, and Project 2030 is the real monster. You have been distracted to think Project 2025 is the monster. And so that was a distraction. So next time, be prepared. Go do your homework on Project 2030. And so then we'll pick up from there.
All praises to the Most High. We love you guys. We'll see you again.